Hey there, everybody. Welcome to our Reacher Season 2, Episode 6 reaction and review. Okay, listen, we all knew somebody was going to die this season. Like, that felt
Oh.
like a real inevitability. This is going to sound really dumb, especially because I think if you were to look at all the major characters on the show, you would probably say that Russo is the most likely to go because he's not in the 1/10. But I really thought it was going to be a bigger sacrifice. I didn't think Russo was going to go. I thought we were going to lose somebody actually within the unit.
Listen, I didn't care about Russo at all until this last episode. This show made me care about Russo, and then you guys took him from me. Like,
Yeah.
how dare you? I was so upset, and I knew that it was coming
Mm.
because when we had that whole scene where Russo was confronting his boss and being like, they drove a pile of money up to my house. And he was like, oh, yeah, and I knew your father. And he's like, don't talk about my father. I'm
Yeah.
like, uh-oh. Oh no. When they start talking about like the past and like things that are really personal to them, it's usually a sign on the show that somebody's gonna die, where there's some sort of deeper reflection on parents or something you did in the past, and then all of a sudden, we lose Russo.
It's just like this show is reminding us that unless you are Jack Reacher, nobody else is really ever safe. And if you are a good person, that doesn't mean you get rewarded for it. It's just a sad irony that we all spent a good half of this season being like, I don't trust you, Russo. You seem shifty. Something else is going on. And like the moment we all get on his side, he ends up going after this big old showdown with Langston and Langston's dudes and all this chaos all over the place.
Okay, listen, it's TV. Is it possible that he got shot all those times and he makes it out? The ambulance is on its
Yeah.
way. Maybe, probably not. Listen, this is just because you guys made me care about him and now we're here.
Listen, I will give him a 2% chance. I'm not giving him a big
All right,
chance,
I'll
but
take 2%.
you know,
2%'s better than 0, which is how I felt coming out of this episode.
so we're saying there's a chance, everybody. That's what you can cling to
Oh,
right
boy.
now. No, but if you guys do want a chance to see a lot of other videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button. In particular, we have so many murder mysteries that we are covering here coming up. In addition to Fargo right now, we have over the course of this next month, Death and Other Details, True Detective, Criminal Record, Monsieur Spade, and The Woman in the Wall. That is 5 murder mystery shows.
Also, if you want to join us for our live streams where we're talking all about Reacher, I will have a link for you below to our Patreon. We are there every week talking about Reacher.
Okay, so the entire showdown at the end of this episode, it's effective, it's dark, it's exactly what you would expect from a Reacher episode in a lot of ways.
Oh my goodness. The action in this episode was wild. Like everything that was going on with, Langdon and everything, where it was just like all this like shootouts and everybody's driving around, everything that's happening. I was like, oh my God, it can't get any better than this, going across the bus and all that. And then in comes the helicopter. And I was just like, I didn't think that it could get any more action than it already actioned. And then in came the helicopter with that big escape. I was just like, oh my goodness. It was amazing, like amazing. Every time I watch the show, I truly feel like I'm watching an action movie. Like it's so well done. And there's nothing like this on TV. Like there's good action, and I've seen good action. Like Daredevil comes to mind for me. I mean, I loved that show and I felt like the fight sequences were really good. But like just action for action, nothing touches this show.
You know what happened with Langston? He got in the chopper.
All right.
Listen, this is
Langston.
a subtle Terminator reference. We got the overt one over earlier this season. They're like, okay, we got to find a way to get Robert Patrick in there. Okay, this is the thing, is that as action-packed and awesome as the fight sequence was, which I think a lot of us can agree, I was also sitting here and being like, okay, is there really a chance they're going to take out Langston at this point? There's still 2 episodes after the fact. I didn't ever think that they were actually going to get him.
Okay, I thought that they were going to get him because there are still 2 more episodes and AM is not there yet. And for me, my tinfoil hat is that Langston is not the big bad. It is AM. And, with 2 more episodes left, if they took out Langston now, then AM is still out there and he is so dangerous.
He is really, really dangerous, and it's for that reason. I know we already have the tinfoil hats on. I'm putting the hard
Yeah.
hat on here. It's just that
Oh,
they're not doing enough with AM.
agreed.
This is, we are 6 out of 8 episodes. We are a huge ways into this season at this point. Like, we're talking 3 quarters, and unless you're setting up AM for like an increased role even beyond this season, like we haven't read the books, we don't know what else is potentially
Mhm.
coming. It feels like we are sort of stalling out on some things that I wish they were getting to a little bit faster, because everything we saw with AM in this episode, which is basically, him getting pulled over, him using his, classic British charm to try to win over the cop. While the cop checks the information, he takes out the cop. This is basically a rinse and repeat of every other thing we have seen with AM so far this season. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I already know that AM is capable of this. There's nothing that happened in this scene that I'm like, this is essential to the AM story, other than that he is gradually getting closer and closer to New York, which I kind of could have figured out on my own. So I'm just like, okay, we don't have that much time left unless you guys are doing like a 2-hour finale or something like that. He is so dangerous and so effective of an adversary. I want him facing off with Reacher and the team. I don't want him on the side of a road with some cop who's going to die in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's a road trip of murder. We've been watching it for the whole
Yeah.
season where it's like, as he's going along this road trip, every episode he's killing somebody to remind us, of course, that he's very dangerous. He has a trail of bodies behind him. He
Yeah.
is on his way. And I get what you're saying. It is a rinse and repeat, but I think the idea of the fact that he's not just on a road trip, he is on a road trip with a trail of bodies behind him to continue to remind us that he is killing people along the way. He kills everybody, anybody. And in this episode, it's a cop. So he really, truly does not care who it is.
He thinks he's clearly untouchable, and maybe he is until Jack Reacher touches him and he flies like 10 feet backwards into a wall or something like that. But he feels like he is very different from everybody else on the show because he is taking out everybody. He's really hard for anyone to identify, and that's what makes the mystery of him compelling. And that's why I am sitting here. I am about to become the meme of, it's just like, and I am telling you right now, you guys must give us AM versus Reacher in
Yeah.
episode 7, or at the very least the start of episode 8. He can't turn up 10 minutes before the end of the finale and be like, I'm here, guys, and then Reacher punches him and it's over.
I think the most important thing about AM and why he's going to give Reacher a really good fight is that he uses the element of surprise in
Yeah.
a lot of things, where, everything with Langston was, oh, we're in a car with guns. And that's something that Reacher has seen like a billion times in his life. He already knows how to deal with action, action, action. People just coming at him, not really that well thought out. Even Langston showing up to this thing. Oh my God, it's a trap. Okay, come on. You didn't know that it was going to be a trap coming in? You clearly did. I know you were going to kill her anyways, but you came pretty ready for killing a whole bunch of people.
Yes.
You didn't come to kill one person. You had a whole team of people for one woman. It was kind of ridiculous. So it's just I think AM, because he's so he seems like he's really laid back, really low key, not a danger, that this is someone that Reacher hasn't really dealt with before. And because of that, he's going to be able, or he should be able to get close to him physically, because that's what's happened with every single person we've seen, where he's been able to get close to them and feel non-threatening, and then boom, you're dead. And that's something that, I'm sure Reacher has dealt with once or twice, but not the way that he's dealt with Langston, who's just showing up with a car full of guns.
It's a different sort of foe, and I think that's obviously the exciting part of this. And there could be still a new direction with this character we don't even expect, because season 1 of Reacher, they waited till pretty close to the end to unleash some pretty big twists. That's still possible. It's also possible that those twists are related to Swan, because guess what? We still don't have answers on Swan either, though this episode, and between everything that's going on with Marla and all the discussions that we've learned, it still feels like there is a chance that Swan is not some big baddie on the other side of this.
And guess who's the first person that was pointing the finger at Swan? O'Donnell. I said this in the last video. I said in the video before. I feel like he's dirty. He is not what he seems. I think he's Swan. And that's why in this episode, at the very beginning, when they're all sitting around the playground, he's just like, "Am I the only one that's going to say it? Let's point the finger. It's Swan." I'm like, "Of course you're pointing the finger because it's you. Point it back at yourself. It's you." And the further that we sort of got into this episode, where we did see her saying, like, "Listen, no, Swan, you think Swan is dirty? It's not Swan. Swan's the only person that's like trying to figure this out and trying to help and
Yeah.
trying to this and that and whatever." When she said Swan reached out to a bunch of his old squad for help, I think he reached out to O'Donnell and O'Donnell took the call. And that's how he sort of got brought in with it. And then he met, Langston and everything was going on. And I just think that he got really involved in it. Swan called the wrong person. And now he's just setting up Swan.
I think you're probably right. I think at this point, there's not enough smoke on anybody else, and that Reacher's working with at this point. Like, Dixon, I had the theory a while ago. I don't see it at this point. They're not going to make Neely betray Reacher.
No, it's not
I
Neely.
don't believe that in a million years. O'Donnell's he's the only person who makes sense, and you just established the connection potentially with Swan. And I don't think that Swan, the real Swan, is dirty.
No.
They've spent way too much time on it. They're not going to have some sort of big reveal on the other side of this. It's like, oh, it really is Swan, and then Reacher has to contend with the emotional gravity because he's already doing that. Like we already saw in this episode that he's struggling with this idea that, okay, maybe Swan is dirty, maybe I was wrong. So it's like we've already gotten the delivery of, I guess, what that reveal could have given us later on. So there's no meat on that bone now. Like the only meat that's on this bone is your theory of O'Donnell. It's the only one that makes a little bit of sense that would kind of establish a big sort of shock factor. And then, maybe something will happen to him. And then in the finale, Reacher will be like, I'll take care of the family. It will all be okay. I'm sorry your husband turned out to be this awful person or whatever.
Yeah, and I think that it could be setting up Reacher for next season to be even more of a lone wolf sort of thing. Because how does he get out of this season and, not be with his crew? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not be more with Dixon or O'Donnell or, I think Neely will still be around. They have a really special relationship. But I think in general, we need him to be able to move on into the next season. So one of the crew has to be dirty. And if he's already thinking like, maybe it's Swan, maybe it's not, oh my goodness, it's Dixon or O'Donnell by the end of it, that would put him in a frame of mind by the end of the season to be like, I just need to be alone. Sorry, Dixon. Sorry, O'Donnell. Sorry, Neely. I'll catch you in another couple years.
The only other outcome I could see of all of this, if there is no one on the team who is dirty, is just that somebody else is going to die and that it's not going to be just Russo. I kind of feel like, though, having another episode, like episode 7 end with another death, it's kind of just, all right, you just did this twist. You're going to do it again. If they were going to take somebody out of the equation alongside Russo, I would say it's probably going to be Dixon because the romantic thing is still going on as evidenced in this episode. And unless the finale rolls around and Reacher and Dixon are both like, okay, you know what? This was fun. Our lifestyles don't work. You're going to go that way. I'm going to go undercover again. It's just like, you're going to have a hard time sort of justifying Reacher going on his own again, and unless he just like ghosts her and then he's not all that likable of a character.
No, I agree. I absolutely see either O'Donnell or Dixon dying and then the other one being dirty. And then that leaves him going into the next season with nobody, but hopefully we'll see Neely again.
Yeah, I think Neely again is definitely the person in the mix of all this that makes the most sense. I think they just need to get to the next twist. It's like, it's a fun episode. It's an action-packed episode, but at the same time, like, I'm left wanting more. And maybe this is a symptom of Reacher doing like the weekly rollout this season. I know some people don't like it. And,
I like it.
I like it. I like it too. I think it works for the majority of the shows. It's just also after an episode like this, I really am just like amped up because I have that anticipation. And if they pay it off next week, I will be really, really happy. I will give, though, one of my favorite Reacher moments of this entire episode. How is Reacher eating a Clark bar and looking like that? Okay,
I know.
if that is the
And
secret,
peach pie. I
I'm
mean,
going
he eats terribly.
I'm going to the convenience store right after this. I'm gonna go get some of those like Hostess snack pies, a Clark bar. I'm just gonna start, and then all the muscles are just gonna start coming. It's like finally, my moment in the sun is
Oh
here.
my goodness.
It was that was really really funny to me. Reacher, I mean it's totally ridiculous when Dixon gets into bed with him and he's just basically like, well, it's not that rough a rule. Well, okay, this show can be kind of cheesy sometimes, but it's funny. Like there are some legitimately funny moments that are sort of scattered throughout it.
Okay, let's talk about Russo a little bit further because the reveal that his boss has been paid off by Langston and New Age and everything that's going on, when he was basically like, listen, you just also take a payoff, it'll be fine. It made me feel like there's a lot of people over there that are all being paid off. So that makes me feel like Reacher and his crew were already not on their own because they had Russo's help, but Russo didn't realize that he didn't have the backing of the force behind him, that they were being paid off, that Russo was really on his own. So now they're going to be like legitimately on their own. They can't depend on the force because the force is being paid off. His boss is being paid off and Russo is, 98% dead.
I think this is really the problem. I mean, granted, I guess at the same time, this is what Reacher, the producers, probably love. It's the us against the world mentality. I thought the
Yep.
only comparison I can think of is like when you are a sporting event and you're a team, when you're a sporting event, when you're a team, and it's like you like the fact that
I'm
every
a
other
sporting
team, yeah.
event.
Hi, Mr. Sporting Event, how are you? Well, like this is the best way I can put it. I come from a long line of Cowboy fans. Like I don't really care that much about football one way or another, but like I know a lot of Cowboy fans kind of live in this world where it's us against everybody else. Everybody else hates the Cowboys, and they kind of like it like that. It's like Reacher, I think he likes it when it's him against the world because then
Mhm.
he doesn't really have to look out for anybody else. He could just worry about his own little team, face off everybody who's coming against him, and it kind of gets him out of that ambiguity of like, okay, who do I trust? Who do I not trust? Because then he has to stop and think. And I think Reacher is better when he just reacts.
Yeah, for sure.
I hope with that in mind that there's upcoming episodes, they do give us a couple of things to think about, but
Mhm.
ultimately, we just need to see Reacher take some stuff down. We need to see all these loose ends pay off, and it is just the big question of is there enough time? Because 2 episodes and a show like this, the episodes are only like 40 to 45 minutes. That's not really a lot of time to handle Langston, AM, possible somebody betraying the team, somebody dying.
No, I agree. That's why for me, Langston should have been dead in this episode. And then we have 2 episodes where Reacher's trying to get to AM. AM is finding out what's happened to Langston, but is still coming down to then be like, okay, well, now I have to deal with this situation. I have to get another contact through New Age to get what I want so that we can all work it out. And then have them like getting closer and closer and closer so that by the time we get to episode 8, we will have had a really good setup with episode 7 of more of AM and Reacher kind of starting to get closer. But with Langston still alive, like it's kind of like, okay, well, he's still going to be part of it.
Well, that is our take on Reacher Season 2, Episode 6, everybody. And before we go here, I, Mr. Sporting Event, have
All
one last
right.
announcement here. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. So many murder mysteries are coming up at the channel. Like we said earlier, we don't want you guys to miss any of that. Thank you to our patrons for your
Thank you.
support, and we'll see you here next time.